set to be Meghan Markle's worst week? Hi, good morning. Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. Thank you for joining me as ever today. Yes, the heat wave has arrived. I know you're all asking me, yes, it's come. I know. Well, we have to uphold standards, you see. I expect you to look smart for me. I can see you are, yes. That night nurse frappy, I can see it. Seriously though, boiling hot here. And we've been given all these warnings, and it's kind of like your 10-year-old, you kind of think, well, yes, okay, I understand, drink lots of water, Fab 208 lorry, and I'm all right, aren't I? That's all you really need, This beautiful building, by the way, behind me is the Landmark Hotel, gorgeous place. And if you can afford it, very exclusive indeed. A lot of people will recognise it from various films, all the big sort of merchant ivory things, as well as the more modern day stuff like Pat and Margaret, which starred the brilliant Victoria Wood, who also wrote it, and of course Dame Julie Walters. Brilliant, as I say, place if you get a chance to go in. Need a little bit of spare cash, but it's one of those venues that, people don't realise this. London had a lot of grand hotels, and this is what they call a railway hotel because it's very close to Marylebone Station, and this was for the rich, simply you didn't really get wet. There were canopies across the road, and if you could afford it, literally you stepped from one dot of luxury into another. You can imagine what it was like back in the day, if of course you were rich. Very similar, of course, really to today's breaking story, all about Meghan Markle. And as we now know, there's a big problem looming, all thanks to that brand new book which has been released called Revenge. But let me tell you a bit of inside track on that not a lot of people already know about. There's a story going around, particularly about Meghan and the P&G thing, where she allegedly wrote to them all about men doing dishes and women, etc. Well, the bigger story to that is, of course, we're not quite sure whose original idea that was. But now moving forward, what's really taken legs, as they say in the business, is this. As we know, apparently after that big event and she was filmed for a school project and a news channel came, obviously, even at that very young age, she was budding and wanting to get on, get her face seen, get herself out there. Nothing wrong with ambition, but you could see from that very early age, she was a very determined person. But in that particular report, it's claimed, and in the book, that she wrote to the then First Lady, Hillary Clinton. Of course, President Clinton was the president at that point, so, the number one person to try and get a letter back from the White House. Now, seemingly, nobody has any recollection of this letter being written. Even the school doesn't remember it. Perhaps it was a personal thing that Meghan did. So now the hunt is on to try and find whether this letter is validated or not, or it's simply another, shall we say, figment of some PR publicity. But the real reason why Meghan's team really want that letter to be found, if it does exist, and more importantly, of course, they really want this person to come now on side. And this is all possible. This is because the former First Lady, Hillary Clinton, allegedly had a one-to-one meeting at Frogmore Cottage a few years back now when she was over here in the UK publishing and promoting her own autobiography. I met her at that time. A very, shall we say, forceful lady would be the correct words, really, I suppose. And very much, you could only ask this and that, very much aligned to what you're allowed to do. Very powerful is what I would say. So she spoke at that particular period about how she felt sorry for Meghan and how she wanted to give her a hug and reach out and offer friendship, etc. And as ever with these things, an alleged secret meeting took place. We're not quite sure because, like a lot of secret meetings in the life of Harry and Meghan, seemingly there's no photographic evidence of that. But apparently she played with Archie, the usual stuff. Interesting to say the least. Now, what their team, and as ever we have to say allegedly, are hoping will happen is that Hillary will come out in support of Meghan, claiming she does recall this letter. And this would be a big factor, in fact, really, because it would then damage some of the credibility of this particular book or story. But unless the letter can be found as hard proof, it's going to be very hard to make it substantiate. But the fact that the former First Lady would stand up for her says a lot. And as we've now seen, there's not many people allegedly wishing to do this. And, a lot of people are citing the tennis ace Serena Williams. But let's not forget, a friendship of kinds did develop further on the line, so much so that, she did get an invite to that wonderful royal wedding. The spectacle, not the actual real wedding that Meghan and Harry liked. So as this story rumbles on, there's going to be lots of contradictions and problems because while the book's a good read, trust me, The people behind Meghan and Harry, who they pay a fortune to, are going to be peddling very hard to make sure that they can substantiate some of these more outlandish claims, which are delicious to read, but definitely do at points need backing up. Before anybody asks, I'm not on the payroll, I'm not in the Sussex squads, all of those things. I'm merely presenting the facts as we find them exclusively here for you. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.